Robin,
Hello, Jude.
good morning. Where did God come from?
This is one of those big questions that's very often thrown at Christian thinkers, folk like myself who want to converse with folk to explore views. Sometimes it comes in the form of who made God? That's the other question that comes, with the idea that there must have been something before God. Perhaps it's encouraged by an awful lot of these modern computer games that have gods as little destroyable things that are part of the adventure that you're going through. When you come to the scriptures, which is where we've always got to come to, away from the ideas of our culture, whatever our culture might be, down to the core of what scripture actually says. Revealed in scripture is that he is different from the normal gods of the world, the idols, the little gods that deal with the fields and the waters, that are the gods of the people. Particularly the ones we come across in scripture are Baal and Ashtaroth and others like that. They all have their little followers. Very similar from country to country, the same sort of idols reappear. The God who comes and calls the Jews out of slavery, gives them a land to be their own, is always described as the high God, the God above all other gods. That's capital G God and little g gods. This is the God who is the one who is far above all the others. The great God, the high God, the one God. That's where it comes to, where it becomes clear that the other gods are actually human inventions or devilish impositions without any true attributes. What becomes plain from the whole teaching of Scripture is that the God we have to deal with is an eternal God. He comes from the ages and he is to the ages. Before him there was nothing. In fact, that's a nonsense statement because he was never made, he was never created, he always was. Out of sheer desire to love and care, part of his very nature, he creates. He speaks and the world comes into existence. Before him, there was nothing. Reading from the New Testament in church on Sunday had Jesus describing the fact that he'd always been with God before the creation of the world. There you go. So the God that we have to deal with, when you start to explore him, it's not that he's just so big that you can't imagine him. It's not that he's so powerful that you can't approach him. It's not that he's so pure that our failures are a constant problem in approaching him. It's that he's powerful beyond our imagining, has existed forever. That's who we're dealing with. That's the one that we have to do. It's not some little God that we can give a nod to and then go away and do our own thing. If this is the God we're dealing with, it's serious stuff. If this is the God who has created us and calls us to be his own, surely out of, if nothing else, sheer fear of his might and his majesty and his wisdom and his understanding, we should bow our heads and follow. Instead, we find reasons to excuse ourselves and go our own way. We need to remember that the God we deal with, he's no little God that we can mess around with. He's the God who has made everything and who knows everything, who fills everything with his presence and knows you to the uttermost. I found that quite scary when I first perceived it, this idea that I am fully known. God can see what's going on inside me. That's uncomfortable, isn't it? It's vulnerable and it's exposing. But you look at all the meetings with God where God shows himself in majesty and glory in the Bible, like just picking one that I always loved is Isaiah chapter 6, where Isaiah is met and is called by God to his ministry. The first reaction of Isaiah is to be unable to even speak in God's presence, just so overwhelmed by the majesty he's experiencing. That's the God we have to deal with. That's the one who calls us. What is astonishing and wonderful and marvellous is that he's also the God who has so wanted to seek us out that he spoke himself into the world in Jesus Christ, that he might reach out to us and bring us to himself. What are we going to do about him? Are we going to follow or not?
Follow.